Welcome back. It's a heady rally, 340 points up on the Sensex. Mayuresh Joshi now joins in the conversation. Mayuresh, take on Motherson Sumi. Is this rally really marking the end of what's been a long trough phase?
Afternoon, Survi. Again, I think the pain points that the company has probably gone through, specifically in terms of the emission norms, what happened to a particular list of its clientele, Volkswagen particularly. I think there has been some respite because of the commentary that has come through from Volkswagen. So they have reiterated that the margin guidance that they'll probably maintain for the coming fiscal can be maintained at the higher end of the band that they have mentioned. So I think ancillary supporters like Motherson obviously will get cheerful news if they're probably maintaining and raising their guidance to the upper end. But the other element is the general slowdown that we've probably seen both in the domestic market and how the margins have fared specifically for its S&P business. So again, I think there are a whole host of factors at play here. So there might be a move here. I mean, there is no possibility that the move cannot get ruled out. But in my opinion, I think the stock is probably stuck in a range unless we probably see consistency happening specifically from both SMR, S&P earnings, both from the top line in terms of the executive order book that they've got and the new Daimler order that they've won, and whether they can maintain their margins and improve it thereafter. Again, I think the debt equity at one time, because of the capex that they're probably doing, should probably sustain around that level itself. So in my opinion, I think the stock is probably stuck in a wide range, at least over the next few months.
Okay. Mitesh, I want to...
Ports, which is still down 8% despite the surge on the screen. What did you make of the developments there, and what would your stock recommendation be?
So clearly, I think one really needs to give it time. I think in terms of the acquisitions that they have done themselves, I think on the face of it, it probably looks a tad expensive because if one really presumes the kind of numbers that the acquisition might add up, both in terms of top line and the EBITDA, so there is a huge potential in terms of the infrastructure requirements that is required, specifically in terms of the food logistic infrastructure development needs that both the government is embarking upon, and the consequential utilization levels as these projects start coming on stream, because a lot of projects are also in terms of a development stage at this point of time. The second element obviously is that it's a very high EBITDA margin business, but the second element is obviously going to be how the acquisition is probably going to take place, because at an enterprise value, again, I think it seems to be a little bit expensive, and how it affects cash flows for the port business in general. So I think you probably need to give it more time, probably assume what kind of an impact will the financials have going forward. As a clear disclaimer, I think we don't own the Adani Group stocks, so I think let the stock settle down. I think there are better stocks probably in the NBFC stock financial space that I might probably look at this point of time.
All right, fair enough. Well, we've just got about 2 DLF. A lot of the morning gains were completely erased by afternoon. So that's how it has played out. Let's take final thoughts with the guests then. Mayuresh, on real estate, now that this news is out, do you have any buys at all?
No, again, I think the street is probably now just stating the news. I think the benefits that might not come through because of the input tax credit not available. I think the pass-through that is probably available to the developer is probably not there at this point of time. So I think a lot of managements have actually spoken how they might not get impacted because of what the move has been. In fact, what can actually happen, and the anticipation of the street was largely getting built in, that if there is no input tax credit, largely I think the developers are not going to benefit very, very strongly. I think it's the affordable part of the market where buyers can probably take the biggest advantage at this point of time. But one really needs to segregate between the real estate players the component of affordable housing at this point of time, and what kind of a percentage of revenue accretion can it happen as the execution starts, and if it starts happening over the next few years. So as that thesis and genesis has started dripping in over the day into these stocks, I think it was very obvious that listed developers are not going to probably get any kind of a benefit from these moves. So again, I think no real buys at this point of time. I think the only stock that we probably hold in our funds is Godrej Properties.
Okay, fair enough. Quick last words from you as well, Mitesh. Looking at today.